Ladies and gentlemen, can I present for you Mr. Fenton Gray!
Dan Crawley, comedian, dancer, music hall star. You probably never heard of him, but the audiences of the 1900s had. In the next 20 minutes or so, I'm going to give you a little insight into the world of Dan Crawley, and being his great-grandson, I'm pretty confident I'm, what's the word? Qualified. Qualified! Now, when I was researching tonight, I found this fascinating article in a monthly magazine called Britannia and Eve. It was a very upmarket monthly with high society content and gossip. This edition was from the 1938, decades after the decline of the music hall. And it was an article called Music Hall Memories, reminiscing about the glory days. Now, the author talks about his youth as a devotee of the music hall, seeing all the greats, Mari Lloyd, Gus Ellen, Little Titch, Vesta Tilley. He talks of his excitement at finding out who was on the bill that night. And I quote, "Who is on tonight? Dan Leno, Mari Lloyd, Dan Crawley. Good enough." He then describes Dan's act. Dan Crawley was what they used to call a dame comedian, often dressed as a woman. He was rather broad in his methods, yet he obtained his results in double quick time. How the gallery used to roar its approval. Off goes Dan to a huge round of applause. Then up next is Mari Lloyd. Our Mari. Shall we ever see her like again? I do not think so. So, there he was, placed in the same league, at least as far as the author's concerned, as the greats such as Dan Leno and Mari Lloyd. So, why didn't his fame last? Well, perhaps we might get a little insight tonight. But I think it's time for one of Dan's songs, don't you?
Yes.
This is an early one from 1898. There's been a fearful rumpus down our street this afternoon. The landlord had a notion I was gonna shoot the moon. Because I owe him 6 years' rent, he sent the brokers in. They're clearing out the furniture, but I don't give a pin. It doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to me. Won't the fat be in the fire when they find it's all on hire? Oh my word, what trouble there will be. They'll have to bring it back again, 'cause it doesn't belong to me. Now, it's very seldom you should see me clobbered up so gay, for fancy coats and trousers never seem to come my way. And as for wearing shirts, such luxuries I never knew. Although I've got one on tonight, I don't mind telling you. It doesn't belong to me. It doesn't belong to me. It belongs to a pal of mine. He can't wear it. He's doing time. When he comes out again, he'll want it back, you see. I'm simply airing it out for him, 'cause it doesn't belong to me. Now, I've heard so much about the woes of every married man that I decided I'd always live upon the single plan. You'll often see me with a girl you'll take to be my wife, but there, you never made a greater bloomer in your life. She doesn't belong to me. She doesn't belong to me. She's not my wife, you must know. She was married years ago. Her old man's far across the briny sea. I'm simply taking care of her, 'cause she doesn't belong to me. She doesn't belong, she doesn't belong, she doesn't belong to me. Now, Dan Crawley was born in County Cork, Ireland in 1872. And he moved to London with his family when he was just 6 years old. Now, he was a natural dancer. And by the time he was 16, he was entering dance competitions and winning many trophies. In fact, his dancing, particularly clog dancing, became quite a feature of his act. Now, I forgot my clogs, so I won't be subjecting you to any of that. So his first recorded London appearance was at the Royal Victor Music Hall in Victoria Park in March 1891, when he was only 19. Now, his career must have progressed very quickly, because by the time he was 21, his first popular song was published, entitled, "I was very, very busy, most wonderfully busy." Over the years, many of his songs were published with his picture on the front of them, and a lot of them are housed at the Bodleian Library at Oxford University, where they have a huge, massive collection of original old-time musical material. I managed to get in touch with them, and out of the archives, they, especially for me, got 40 of his songs, and oh God, it was quite special to sit there and be able to touch and feel these songs. You'll see in your little program that I gave you song sheets with his name on the front, and as sung by Dan Crawley, because in those days the singers owned the songs, so it was always associated with the artist. So as I say, many of the songs were published, and one I found that I particularly like the sound of is from 1909. We followed home a lovely girl and thought we got to find. When she retired, we stood and watched the shadows on the blind. We saw her take her ringlets off and hang them on a peg. And after that, she started taking off her wooden leg. Then we all went home again. We all went home again. Not before we'd seen the show, something tickled our fancy, so that's enough! We shouted Mary Jane. She blew out the light and said, "Boys, good night," and we all went home again. Now, one very important aspect of Dan's life, in fact mine too, and my brother who's there, is our great-grandmother and his wife, Lillian Bishop. She was also a performer. Now, they met while they were on the same bill at Chapel's Ring, which was an open-air venue on the beaches of Great Yarmouth, where they performed throughout the summer, doing 3 shows every day. Lillian was a singer, a dancer, and sometime male impersonator. Well, with father in a dress and mother in trousers, the 5 children must have had an uproarious childhood. Now, Lillian, she never scaled the heights of Dan's career, but she didn't always appear on the bill with him. In fact, she was always on the bill with him, which I think maybe perhaps it was part of Dan's contract. I'll be there when my wife is. Here a newspaper said of her, "Miss Lillian Bishop, who looked very pretty in modern male dress, danced well and sang in an acceptable fashion." Great praise. Now, they were married in Hackney in June 1893. The first child, Daniel, was born a year later, and sadly he died before his first birthday. We don't know what of. Like so many children, the death rate was very high in those days, I guess. After that came Ellen, Lillian, my grandmother, Margaret, Dorothy, who I still remember as a child going to visit Auntie Dorothy at her flat in Clapham Common. She was completely blind at that point, and she was a character, Auntie Dorothy. You could tell that her father had been on stage. It was wonderful, full of beans, full of life. And then finally, Jack, in 1911. I've just recently been emailing his daughter, who is now living in Canada. He moved to Canada early on. 6 kids. In the words of his own song, "I was very, very busy, most wonderfully busy. With my wife and 16 kids and fat old Auntie Jane, I pulled up a cab and said, drive us to Drury Lane. I said, if you drive a lot of us, I'll give a bob. Just then the old cart horse said, nay. Cabby, please don't take this job.
Toot-a-loot, toot-a-loot. If that is all that the gentleman has got, just take me to the slaughterhouse. I'd rather see me shot on me toot-a-loot, toot on me pot.
Hold on. Done that. Now, success was not just restricted to Great Britain. And on the 26th of March, 1903, the Stage reported in its gossip columns that Mr. Dan Crawley, one of the foremost comedians and dancers on the variety stage, sails on the SS Ophir tomorrow in company with his wife Lillian Bishop to fulfill engagements in Australia. Now, Dan was now at the peak of his career, and the family moved to a very nice house in Clapton and were comfortable enough to employ a housekeeper. We've got a nice new servant girl to do about the house. A country girl is Mary, and as simple as a mouse. She isn't half bad looking too, and her price is rather cheap. There's one thing most unfortunate. The girl walks in her sleep. And so does father. Mary gets up like a mouse, takes a walk around the house fast, asleep all the time, it's true. Then she goes back to bed again. And so does father too. Now, pantomime played a very large part in Dan's career, and he was particularly well known as a dame, made quite a name for himself. His most successful role was that of Widow Twankey in Aladdin, which he played several times, including at the Theatre Royal, Glasgow in 1905, starring alongside the legendary Harry Lauder. Yes. He was Widow Twankey and he was Baron McSwanky. The production was a massive hit, and well, it did make me chuckle a little bit to read the review in the Stage that seemed to suggest that Dan was the real star of the show. A especially important engagement is that of Scotland's celebrated comedian, Mr. Harry Lauder. Hitherto, Mr. Lauder has had no connection with pantomime, but as a music hall artist, he has for some time held high place. And once he settles down in his part of Robert McSwanky, he will no doubt become as famous in pantomime. Second only to Mr. Lauder is Mr. Dan Crawley. Mr. Crawley has some capital songs. His patter is irresistible, and his dancing is a feature of the pantomime. Time for a pantomime song, I think, don't you? Yeah. Oh, yes, it is! I've got a quick train, so can't fit.
Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the stage, Dame Dan Crawley.
Hello, my darlings! Now, since we killed our old tomcat with mice, we're overrun. I've ordered mousetraps by the gross and poison by the ton. But sure as washing day comes round on Thursday afternoons, somebody's sure to say, as I hang out my pantaloons, the mice have been at it again, sure as eggs are eggs, in and out the early doors, up and down the legs. I try to preserve my wardrobe, but it's all in vain. I know when I find a draft behind, the mice have been at it again. As I was waiting for a bus, a fella said to me, "You're just the saucy sardine I've been waiting here to see. Your voice seems full of whiskey and your manner full of grace." But when I lifted up my veil, he said, "Is that your face?" The mice have been at it again. Talk about a clock. When he saw it in the light, it gave him quite a shock. He said, "Good night, Salome. Your face would stop a train. Just take it away and boil it, pray. The mice have been at it again." Oh. wed a lovely man. I promised to be true. And on the wedding night he said,
I've got a treat for you.
but sad to say I never did find out just what it was. And through his tears he said to me,
I've let you down because the mice have been today. Talk about mishap. What I've been saving up for you has been caught inside a trap. And now it breaks me heart to think our future's down the drain. I passed me peak just to hear me squeak. The mice have been at it again. The mice have been at it again. The mice have been at it again.
I posed the question earlier on, why didn't Dan's fame last? Well, the reason was that tragedy struck Dan and the whole family when on the 22nd of October 1912, at the age of only 40, he died. Quotes from the era, the performer and the stage will give you just some ideas as to just what a shock it was. The world of the halls will read with considerable regret of the death of Mr. Dan Crawley, who has been cut off at the age of 40 in the zenith of a very successful career. This respected member of the Variety Artists Federation had been laid up for less than a fortnight, the end being painfully sudden and following on for an operation for an abscess on the lung, which was performed by eminent surgeons from the London Hospital. Can you imagine what a lung operation would have entailed in 1912? It just doesn't bear thinking about. The funeral was a large affair. Members of the public lined the streets. There was a cortege of 5 horse-drawn carriages travelling the 1.5-mile journey from the funeral at St. Ignatius Church in Stamford Hill to the grave at Abney Park Cemetery, Stoke Newt. Even more tragedy struck our family when 5 years later Lillian also died at the age of 40. I can only assume that with Dan dying and leaving her with 5 children under the age of 18 to bring up, she had some sort of nervous breakdown perhaps, because at that time there was a very different approach, of course, to any mental health issues, and she was committed to the Brighton County Asylum in Haywards Heath, where she passed away in 1917. Dorothy and Margaret were sent to the Convent of Mercy orphanage, and Jack, who was only a year old when he was a year old when his dad died, and he must have been 7 when his mother died. Okay. He was placed in care, and my grandmother, who married the following year, fought the authorities to become Jack's guardian, and succeeded, subsequently bringing Jack up with the help of her in-laws. Yeah, quite a tale and quite a tale to discover. Now, if Dan is up there watching this, which I think he probably is, he'll be saying, "Yeah, Fenton! You're making the whole audience miserable as sin! Come on, send them off!" With a smile on their faces. So shall we do that? Yes. I'll sing you one of his biggest hits from 1905. If there's a man I do respect, it is my dear old dad. He's done no work for 20 years, but isn't doing bad. My mother lets him live with us, though he's a lazy Turk, and gives him money every day to go and look for work. And the father keeps on doing it, father keeps on doing it. Mother hands him out a bob and says, "Now, go and find a job." But trade's so bad, he don't want to ruin it. He's lost one eye through looking for work, and father keeps on doing it. Now, he bought a clock for 9pence, and it's got such funny works. No matter how you wind it up, it always goes in jerks. He's oiled it, and he's boiled it, but his trouble's all in vain. For every 20 minutes it wants winding up again. And father keeps on doing it, father keeps on doing it. Every night when lights are dim, he takes the the clock to bed with him, and all night long we can hear him screwing it. Sits up all night to keep it right, and Father keeps on doing it. Now, Father killed our old clock fowl. It was sadder than that. A long, long time ago. Nobody knew its age, but it was 45 or so. A pal of Father's told him he should put it in a pot and keep on stewing it till he found a tender spot. And Father keeps on doing it, Father keeps on doing it. Every now and then he goes and sticks a fork in the parson's nose. But it's still hard. For 3 years he's been stewing it. The poor old cock's as hard as rock, and Father keeps on doing it. Father keeps on doing it, Father keeps on doing it. Every now and then he goes and sticks a fork in the parson's nose, but it's still